where he holds the distinctions of John Evans Distinguished University Professor and Thomson G. Marsh Professor of Law, and is the founding director and Director Emeritus of the International Legal Studies Program. In 1971, Professor Nanda founded the Denver Journal of International Law and Policy, which was one of the first international law journals in the country. In 2006, he launched and became the director of Nanda Center for International and Comparative Law. Professor Nanda has been a leader in the global international law community throughout his career. He has authored and co-authored 25 books in various fields of international law and has also authored various articles for major law reviews. He has been honored with various national and international awards, including the 2018 Louis B. Sloan Award from the ABA section of International Law, the World Jurist Association and World Legal Scholarship Award, the United Nations Association Human Rights Award, and the Hiroshima Peace Award, amongst others. In 2017, he was honored at the US House of Representatives, and in 2018, he received the distinction of Padma Bhushan. In March 2020, he will be honored with the first Faculty Founders Medal at the University of Delhi, which has been launched now. Sir, it's an absolute honor to have you with us here today. I would now like to invite Professor Vidya Ahuja to felicitate Professor Vidya. Professor Ahuja, if you could say a few words.
Thank you, Mandeep. A very good afternoon. It's a matter of great privilege for us that Professor Vedpi Nanda is here at House 2 for 1 week. He'll be here, from today till 7th of February 2020. Professor Vedpi Nanda has been very kind to accept our request, and we are going to host this lecture series, Professor Vedpi Nanda lecture series, and we are going to have 4 lectures of Professor Vedpi Nanda starting from today. It is on various issues. Though he is a professor of international law, so I have requested him to speak on international trade also. So today he is going to speak on the killing of General Soleimani and thereafter the legality of the actions of the United States and Iran under international law. Then he will be speaking on the future of dispute settlement body of the WTO. It is facing a crisis today. And thereafter he will be talking about the art of lecturing and research skills. And then there will be a lecture on very important topic, that is on prevention of biological weapons. Now this is important because you know that what is happening in China because of that virus. So this is something which has been admitted by China also, that it came from their lab. So it becomes a matter of concern for the entire world community, and every country is affected. Even in India also 2 positive cases have been confirmed in Kerala. And you know that how we have to airlift our Indians, who were somehow stranded in Wuhan city of China. So I requested sir to have some discussion with our students and teachers on very contemporary issues of international law. And I won't take much of your time and the time of Professor Vedpi Nanda. Professor Vedpi Nanda will deliver his lecture, and then I'll request him to open the floor for question answer. So you will be free to ask any number of questions from Professor Vedpi Nanda after he finishes his speech, which would be, I think, maybe for 45 minutes, sir, or an hour. As you said. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Delighted to be with you. Just like you, a few years ago, I sat as a student at the University of Delhi Faculty of Law. So I am one of you, no different. Such a warm welcome, and I am deeply grateful. How many of you were here last year when I came. Could you raise your hand? A few of you. And I am delighted to be back. I'm so sorry that some of you don't have a place to sit. I can offer only one chair, that's fine. But otherwise, if I'm standing for some time, you are much younger than I am, you can stand too, right? So they accept. And since they accept it, I can speak. Dr. Uvita, thank you for selecting a very contemporary topic. And I think the first question that you have to ask is, why should there be such an extensive coverage of one drone attack and one person being killed? I don't know if you know the numbers. The numbers are 63 such drone attacks in Yemen. 63. And many people killed. But why is there so much stir around the world about one man, Soleimani, killed? And that raises the question, who is he? Why should we care? And there are several things that probably you have seen, you have remembered, but I want to refresh your memory. He is one person who some call as the Viceroy, Iran's Viceroy in Iraq. He is a person who became part of the Iran's Revolutionary Guard since 1979. Many of you probably recall that is the year that the Revolutionary Guard took over the U.S. Embassy, had U.S. citizens held hostage, embassy and consulate general offices. They are the ones that were ransacked. And these people were there as hostages, American citizens, for a long time. And so the question arose, who is he? Americans call him a terrorist. Iran calls him a national hero. Khamenei, who is the supreme leader of Iran, calls him a martyr. And the point simply is that since the 1980s, 80 to 88, many of you probably know that there was Iran-Iraq war, and he is the one who came into prominence after that. Let me ask you one question, because as a law professor, if I don't ask a question, I'm not a good professor. So I have to ask one question. How many of you have followed the Soleimani's killing? Many of you. All right? How many of you have followed somewhat about President Trump's impeachment? Even more. And how many of you are following now what is going to happen on the impeachment, not on Soleimani? All right? Raise your hands again. All right, some of you, not very many. And I think you probably know that he has been impeached by the House. The Senate is going to acquit him. There were no witnesses called. And so there have been at least a great deal of critical appraisals of this impeachment saga. But in any event, I'll leave that alone. And if you want to ask any question on impeachment, any question on America also, I'll be happy to answer. But let's go back to Soleimani. So since that time, he has been in charge of a very special force, the Quds Force in Iran. And people who understand those kind of forces they say that that force is just like the United States CIA and Special Forces. And these are about 20,000. And he has been responsible for all kinds of activities outside Iran on behalf of Iran. That is Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in the Palestinian territory, and all these militias, Iraqi militias. And there has been one simple aim on his part, and that is to drive American forces out of that region. That's what he has been doing. And so those proxies, they have been intent upon killing American soldiers. The numbers that I have seen range from 603 to 608 Americans killed just in Iraq in the last many years. But also many Americans have been killed in other parts by Hezbollah, by Hamas, and even in Yemen. Effort has been going on in order to see that American forces are out of that region. So that is the kind of setting. So Suleiman is seen as a terrorist. Suleiman is seen as a hero. And let us look at both the international law that Dr. Ahuja has asked me to talk about, but very briefly I'll touch upon the American law. Because the issue initially is, was it an assassination? And I simply want to begin with that under the American law, assassinations have been banned, they are prohibited. And what is an assassination? Assassination, in simple terms, is killing. But assassination, in that kind of legal term in America, is unlawful killing. And it was in 1976 that in America, there was a great deal of an effort to put some kind of limits on the president's power to use force in killing people outside the United States, those who are seen as causing any harm to America and America's interests. That was President Gerald Ford. And he issued an executive agreement. And since that time, it is generally known that unlawful killing outside the United States by American forces is banned and prohibited. But if it is lawful killing, and lawful killing would be under the United Nations Charter, under international law, only in self-defense. That is not an assassination. So any time in America, after Soleimani's killing, somebody said it's an assassination, then the Department of State, American officials, they categorically denied that it was an assassination. They said it was lawful killing. So let's look at international law, and then I'll look at American law. And then I'll ask you to ask any questions or make any comments. Under international law, a simple proposition is the United Nations Charter, and what does the Charter say? How many of you are in international law or have done international law? Raise your hands. Wonderful. So all of you are scholars. And all of you know the United Nations Charter by memory. So I can ask you any question. All right. But many of you do probably recall that Article 2, Paragraph 4 categorically prohibits the use of force in international law, in international relations, and that is called not simply customary international law, but today it's simply seen also even as jus cogens. How many of you know what jus cogens is? Jus cogens is peremptory law. Because as you know, very simple proposition is that the Indian Parliament passes a law. That law is binding upon everyone, you and me, anyone in India, even a foreigner, and I, if I'm an American now and come to India, then Indian Parliament has passed a law. I am on Indian territory, I am bound by that. So that law vertically applies to everyone. International law doesn't. There are 193 sovereign states, all kind of prima donnas. They don't want to listen to anybody. They have got their sovereignty, and at times they feel sovereignty is sacred and sacrosanct, and nobody can touch it. And therefore what happens is that these are 193 horizontal, not vertical. International law does not apply. But jus cogens, these are peremptory norms of international law that apply notwithstanding your consent. These 193 states say, unless we have consented, you cannot apply that law to us. It is just like you getting a ticket or I getting a ticket in America, and that is a traffic violation, and I go to the judge, and judge says, you have violated this law, you are going to be penalized. And I look at him and I say, who gave you consent? I have not given you consent. And that is the kind of setting in international law. But Article 2.4, jus cogens, it applies. And then Article 51 of the UN Charter simply says that you can use force in self-defense. In self-defense, you can even kill people. Think about it. You are standing and there is somebody else standing next to you. And he or she has a gun pointed at you. Trigger is not pulled. You don't know if there are bullets in it or not. It's not Russian roulette. You don't want to wait. And if that gun is pointed at you, and you in self-defense take a shot at him or her and kill him or her before he or she kills you, that is self-defense. And that is what Article 51 simply says, first of all, that you can take action once an armed attack has occurred against you. Armed attack against you. And then armed attack is not spelled out. Let's leave that issue out. But then it says, not the United Nations Charter, but an inherent right of self-defense. The UN Charter has not given it. The US Constitution has not given it. Indian Constitution has not given it. But it's an inherent right that you have inherited, that is yours, irrespective of any other law or charter or constitution. So Article 51 is the one that permits that. And the question here is, did the United States kill Soleimani in self-defense? Is that permissible? Is that justified? And here I would simply tell you what the United States position is and how it justifies it. The US says that for the last 30 years, this person Soleimani, because of the proxies, Iranian proxies, militias, in Iraq, in other places, working with Hezbollah, working with Hamas, working with all terrorist organizations, that Soleimani is the one that has been the mastermind. He is primarily responsible for the killing of all these people. So does that justify it? And here the point simply is that when you say that there is an imminent threat, that imminent threat doesn't go to the past, imminent threat doesn't go to the future. You cannot take action to prevent that you think is going to be an attack on you in the future. You cannot say that we are deterring that action in the future. That there is a likelihood that there will be an attack. Remind you of Iraq, remind you of Saddam Hussein, remind you of President Bush. I want to remind you of 2003. The United States attacked Iraq. Justification was weapons of mass destruction. There were no weapons, but even if there were, to take an action, preventive action, in the future that there is likely to be an attack, that is not permissible under international law. Under that rationale, then India should attack Pakistan right now. That Pakistanis have been plotting, have been thinking about attacking us in the future. That Pakistan might use nuclear weapons against us. That Iran now had threatened us. You can't do that. And that is what the issue at the present time is. Was there an imminent threat to the United States that it could use in self-defense, that action of killing Soleimani? Even if you don't call it an assassination, even if you call it lawful killing, was there an imminent threat? And no intelligence report has showed it. I have followed it very, very carefully. Some of you might have followed it, because initially they could provide no evidence that it has happened. It is happening. And then finally, President Trump said there was going to be a threat against American embassies. And initially they had said, well, you know what had happened was that just not simply in the past, but few days before the killing on January 3rd, that what had happened was that an American contractor was killed, that they had also killed about 25 American servicemen, and that it was the Iranian proxies that had done that. But you know, based upon all that, you cannot justify that killing. But the United States also said he was a terrorist, he had been killing people all the time, we had to take action against him. Now there is a two-pronged criteria that must be met. One, is there overwhelming evidence that there was going to be a threat to your interest, threat to your citizens' lives, threat to your service? And the second one is there any alternative? What would the use of force that you could do? For example, can you do law enforcement? Law enforcement, as you remember, means that there is a terrorist, there is somebody who is going to harm you. You go capture him. You bring him before a court of law. You press charges against him. You hold trial. If you find guilty, punish point simply is that obviously Soleimani was not going to be brought to trial. Soleimani was in Iraq, and here there is another wrinkle. Iraq is a sovereign country. Did you take Iraq's consent before taking action on Iraqi soil? And let me add to it, and then I think I'll probably conclude it, add to it the American law. American law, think of two things. One is the 1973 War Powers Act. And that is the one where American civilians stood up. American Congress said that President must not have unlimited power to take military action abroad. And we need to restrain that. So what does that War Powers Act say? War Powers Act has two prongs to it. One is consult Congress before taking military action abroad. Second prong is that if you have, because of emergency, because of certain factors that you could not, in American interest, go to Congress, seek prior permission, then you withdraw your forces within 60 to 90 days after that. So, I won't go into any details, but to provide you a little background and history. And that is that this War Powers Act, it is kind of ambiguous. There is ambiguity about all those terms. Second, that it's not simply that ambiguity, but also it is that common law practice. Presidents over the past years, they have done two things. They have aggressively extended their own powers. Now, as you probably know, in America there is separation of powers. And we have got three institutions. We have got Congress, we have got judiciary, and we have got the president. President extends its power. Judiciary is reticent to challenge president's powers. Congress has practically abdicated its function. So the setting and all that is that over the years, from 1973 on until now, president's powers have been kind of extensive and practically unlimited because nobody challenged it. And if the challenges are there, then Congress and judiciary, they have not been able until now to limit that power. So that is the kind of setting in which at the present time this issue of Soleimani's killing came up. And so War Powers Act, where you have to either consult before you send those forces, or if the forces are abroad, you bring them back in 60 to 90 days. That has been practically impotent and powerless. 1976, that I mentioned to you, Gerald Ford, President Ford's executive order, and that executive order saying no assassinations, lawful killing in self-defense is not seen as assassination. So in a very short kind of looking at that, I want to mention to you that you could very well argue that when President says that we had information that they were going to be plotting action against American embassies, it doesn't hold water. There is no intelligence here. When they say Pompeo as the Secretary of State arguing that we did it because he was plotting those things, it doesn't work. But their argument here goes beyond that. They say that in 2001, Congress had given us the power to use all the forces that we can appropriately use against Al-Qaeda and against all those terrorists that are related to Al-Qaeda. Now, if you technically apply that statute, then you have to say that Iran is not one of those countries that have been working with Al-Qaeda. Iran also has been fighting against Islamic State. Iran is, as you know, Sunni and Shia. Iran is Shia. Al-Qaeda, Islamic State, they are Sunnis. Iran has been fighting them. And so that doesn't work out. But at the same time, what has happened is that the argument is made that somehow Iran had been in kind of cahoots with some of these terrorists. And that Soleimani is one of those biggest terrorists, and therefore we are going after him and we have killed him. And you probably have seen, perhaps, if you haven't, it doesn't matter. But in America, there was a great deal of debate and controversy about that killing. There were congressional candidates now running for the president. Many of them had said that assassination was not proper. You had not sought congressional authorization. You did not even report to Congress after that until it came out in the media. And you did not take Iraq's consent. And many of you probably know that Iraq after that passed a resolution in its parliament asking America to withdraw its forces. That's what Soleimani wanted. That's what is happening. Obviously, at this stage, it has not been implemented, it has not been executed, but at the same time, at least that is there. And along with that, what has happened is that now America is getting practically out of the Middle East, of Africa, withdrawing itself from all those. And so what Soleimani wanted to do is happening. That is at the present time decided. So let me recapitulate it for you and say it in very simple terms that the argument of self-defense, peremptory self-defense, it has got its own drawbacks. And it cannot be totally justified on that ground if there is no imminent threat. Now, let me just briefly mention to you what about Iran? What did it do? As you probably know, Khamenei, President of Iraq, Foreign Minister of Iraq, Jawad Zarif, and here I do want to add a word that Jawad Zarif, who is the one responsible for doing that nuclear deal with the United States. How many of you know about the nuclear deal that Iran had with the United States? Very good. And how many of you know that in 2015, after Trump became president, he said, we are not going to follow that nuclear deal? Most of it. So that's what happened. And the point that I want to make may be of no consequence, but Jawad Zarif, the foreign minister of Iran, was my student. He did his PhD at the University of Denver, Graduate School of International Studies. He was not in the law school where I teach, but the Graduate School of International Studies did not have an international law professor that worked on the use of force. And Jawad Zarif's dissertation, PhD dissertation that he did, was on the use of force and self-defense. And so I was the one in charge of that dissertation, supervising it. And at that time, the law school and the university's graduate school of international studies, they were about 6-7 miles apart. So every week he would bring a chapter or part of the chapter to me at the law school, and he and I would discuss. And he's a very bright man, and he's very, very articulate, very savvy, and very rational. And at this time, when the issue came up of Iran's response, he used the response of necessity and proportionality. And he said, US did not have the necessity because US did not give overwhelming evidence of what was to be done, why it was done, and it did not, proportionality did not use that. But he said, we are going to be doing proportional response to what the United States has done. And I was very proud of him as his teacher and as his friend. And when he became the ambassador to the United Nations, that is the time, because of US-Iran relations, he couldn't call me directly, but his aide called and wanted me to come and address the United Nations. And that's the only time that I addressed the United Nations at his invitation. And he has been standing up to a friend. And I simply want you to know that his views on the use of force as proportional on the part of Iran is what happened. Iran hit the United States, but again, it was simply probably for their home consumption, did not kill people, and it was all done. Obviously, the United States use of force would have been disproportional if it would have led to escalation of the war, conflict. And it could have escalated, and then the president would have been compelled to go to Congress and to tell Congress what has happened and why, and sought authorization. I want you to recall that in Syria, many of you probably remember that President Obama had set a red line. He said, if Syria uses chemical weapons, that is a red line, and we'll take action against it. Syria did use chemical weapons. Obama did see those chemical weapons, and people said, why are we not using force? And Obama at that time said, I need to seek congressional authorization. And it never came. So congressional authorization has got another wrinkle in all this. Let me summarize. In summary, I would say that for self-defense, overwhelming evidence to be shown that the threat was imminent. And threat could be individual, threat could be collective. Individual would be against you. Collective would be against your partners also. So if the United States could say that it was a threat to Iraq, it was a threat to other countries that are close to us, therefore we took the action. Even that was not there. So I think in conclusion I would have to say that the United States law on this issue is full of ambiguities, and you could probably justify taking the action. Under international law, the jury is out. We don't have that evidence that there was a necessity to use that preemptive action. Most of American politicians, especially Republican, they were furious that there was any question being raised by people about that killing. And their argument simply was a terrorist, known terrorist, who should have been killed long ago, and now that he is dead, what's the fuss about it? And I have mentioned to you two things: no Iraqi consent, self-defense ambiguous, and the argument stating that under American Constitution, Article 2, under the executive order by Gerald Ford, under the War Powers Act of 1973, that we could justify all that action. Again, that is kind of doubtful. In essence, what I'm saying, you could probably say that I need water. Not much. So the point simply would be that even if it is kind of wishy-washy, because there is no clear-cut answer, that is where the law is. And finally, I want to say to my friends who are doing international law, how many of you are there? Raise your hands. Do remember, international law is part of this booming, buzzing, confusing political process. Doesn't stand on its own. It's very important for you and me. And it's important for everyone. Because if you don't have rule of law, there is chaos. But international law, and especially on the use of force, is full of ambiguities. Analogy would be unruly horse. You don't know where it's going to take you. And the analogy would be slippery slope. So international law is absolutely essential. You can't do without it. But at the present time, if you remember, if you have seen any old American Western movies, are totally lawless setting, and it's a saloon, and they are drinking and they are fighting, and here comes a law officer, and they look at him and say, ha ha ha, what are you going to do to us? So that is the kind of setting in which we find international law. It's essential, it's imperative. Without it, it will be chaos, but it still is in a very, very unsettled setting, especially on the use of force. So finally, the jury is still out. You are the jury who will decide whether the United States action was lawful or unlawful at the present time. Thank you very much. I want you to know that Dr. Abuja is a very dear friend, and so he has given me all kinds of different subjects. This is only one of them. And most of international lawyers, they are very, 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 very smart people because they work only in money, public international law or private international. There are very few dummies like me who do both. So I'll be doing international trade. I've talked about public international law today, and then he wants me to talk about international humanitarian law, bioterrorism. Who the hell am I to talk about bio? I'll do that. And then he wants me to talk about research and what art of lecturing and all that. And he had one more subject. He said, talk about Brexit and its impact on India. And I said, who am I to talk about India? You are the one to talk about India. You sent me 50 years ago to America. So I can talk about America, but I can't talk about India in any authoritative way. And if I talk about India in that sense, you must say it's fake news. So I'll be happy to answer any questions at any time. anything about the impeachment, anything about America, anything about elections, anything. Because tomorrow, if it doesn't happen what I say, you'll forget it, right? Doesn't matter what I say. Please, ऊंचा बोलिए.
Yes, sir. Sir, how one particular country is assigning the term terrorist?
I'm sorry, धीरे बोलिए.
Can you come for
So there's a cordless mic.
नहीं वो चलेगा नहीं चलेगा.
चल रहा है चल.
आपने मुझे ध्यान से सुना या नहीं? इनको ध्यान से सुनिए.
So sir, how a particular country is assigning this tag of terrorist or terrorism to a particular organization or a person, but there is no defined particular definition of terrorism which is there in international law. Like we can't say okay this is terrorism or these particular acts which are done in consistency are these called as terrorism. How fair is it that one country is assigning this type of terrorism to a person or an organization?
Very good. It's a very simple question. For the last 40, 50 years, the entire international community has not been able to define terrorism. And he wants me to do that? Thank you, sir, for your confidence in me. The United Nations has failed. International organizations have failed. I have worked on it along with some other friends of mine in the International Law Association, American Society of International Law, and they have not been able to define. So after this talk with me, I'll define it.
No, sir, assigning of terrorist to a person by particular act, we can't be assigning this term to a person or organization. How fair is it?
I think you can ask a person, because if he is going to be using unlawful, unjustifiable means, killing innocent people, lobbing a bomb, indiscriminate killing, that is terrorism. And if a person is the one who is responsible for that, as a general, as Soleimani was, as a major general, and you have evidence that he is the one responsible for doing it, then I think he can be designated as one. And the United States can say, we are taking action.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Sir, can you please throw some light on the legality of the action of Iran by attacking the US embassies after the killing of Soleimani?
I think that is where Iran's action, and I mentioned briefly to you that Iran said our action was proportional, our action was necessary because it was Iranian official. It's not a non-state official, it's a state official. Then I think if you can kill Soleimani, can the Iranians kill Pompeo? Can Iranians kill an American official and call him a terrorist? Because he has been responsible for many Iranian killings. So that's a very iffy kind of proposition. But Iran has justified it by saying it was proportional to what the United States has done. Because Iran did not go beyond that. As I mentioned to you, Iran's action was more for consumption at home. No American was killed. Some American damage had occurred in property. And after that, on both sides, there was nothing to be done. Iran called American action by killing it as a war crime. And Trump, who doesn't know anything about international law, and he said he's going to go after those wonderful, wonderful cultural heritage of Iran.
That's a war crime, sir.
That is a war crime. So if he had done that, he would have been a war criminal. And after that, somebody told him, whispered in his ear, Mr. President, you can't do that. So he said, well, I have changed my mind. But then he changes his mind every day. So do not read his tweets. Yes, sir. My colleague, I promised, I asked her. I said, don't ask me a difficult question, but she has stood up to ask me.
So there's a query. The very one of the very first statements given by the US military when Soleimani was killed was that this was done in anticipation of a future threat. I don't know. But then eventually they changed the word from future threat to imminent threat. However, Article 51 is not mentioning any kind of anticipated threat. So what is going to be the legality of any action, if at all, that happens by any country in future? Can we act in self-defense just because there is an anticipation? Because otherwise Article 51 talks about the actual attack.
Absolutely, unequivocally, totally illegal. Yes? Totally illegal, not accepted under international law. That's why I said difference between preemption and prevention. You cannot take an action because you think that in the future you are going to be attacked. To deter future attacks, to repel future attacks, unacceptable international. Illegal under international law. No issue on that. On many issues I mentioned to you, the jury is out, the jury is not out on it, preventive action, unacceptable, illegal, in violation of international law, in violation of Article 24, in violation of Article 51. Right? Yes.
Sir, you talked about Syrian crisis, and you also talked about how Obama had interfered when the chemical weapon was used. So, sir, when we talk about Syrian crisis, it has been protected for 8 to 9 years. Millions of people have been killed.
I'm sorry,
when we talk about Syrian crisis, millions of people have been killed there, and more than 50 lakhs people have been displaced in Syrian crisis. So when we talk about responsibility to protect R2P, it came and it was passed by General Assembly with more than 2/3 majority. So, sir, when there is a deadlock in Security Council, and US did try to interfere in Syrian crisis, but it was vetoed by China and Russia. And whenever there is a deadlock, then we had provision for United for Peace resolution. In Syrian crisis, why do you feel that United for Peace resolution was not invoked when there was deadlock, and it was invoked in Korean crisis? When we talk about now we are entering into an era of multipolar world order, in which India can play important role. Whenever there is an international crisis, the world is divided into bipolar order. On one hand you have the USA, on the other hand you have Russia or China. Do you feel that India can play important role in invoking the United for Peace resolution if there is an international crisis or threat like Syria happens in future? Because when Iran was happening, India may face very difficult problem regarding oil and other things. So whenever there is an international crisis, India has the third largest standing army on this planet. If we include our paramilitary forces, we are the second largest standing army on this planet. Fourth strong air base, fifth strong navy. We are also emerging superpower. How do you feel that India can play important role in resolving crisis, international crisis like happening in Syria, or it may happen in Iran? Because we have a greater stake in international peace and security. Thank you.
Very good. I think it becomes a little bit technical. How many of you know about the responsibility to protect? Raise your hands. Very few. I'll just briefly mention to you what has happened, and how many of you know about the resolution that was being done that the General Assembly instead of the Security Council can take for Uniting for Peace resolution? Anyone? Very few. let me briefly and then sketch it for you in very simple terms. And kindly just listen, I'll be brief on it. What had happened was that for a long period of time, these big powers, they intervened in internal affairs of other countries, used military force against them, most of the time because of their own interests, but always cloaked in a very attractive term, and they would call this is humanitarian intervention. Okay? Humanitarian intervention. That is intervention on humanitarian grounds, on human rights grounds. The United States did it in the Dominican Republic. United States did it in Panama. United States did it in Grenada. United States has done it many times. And long ago, in the last centuries, United States Marine forces would go in many of these Caribbean countries, banana republics, and use military force in order to protect American corporate interests abroad under humanitarian intervention grounds. Similarly, Russia did at that time, Soviet Union. But very briefly, I want to mention to you that when Rwanda happened, when many other countries in Africa had the same kind of problem, when close to us in Cambodia, there were again almost 1 million people killed, and nobody did anything. And then comes Srebrenica. And all of a sudden, in the middle of Europe, there is fire burning, and the United States went in and bombed Serbia, Yugoslavia at that time. So Kofi Annan, who was the Secretary General, he simply said to the world, he said, you know, humanitarian intervention was bad. But he put a very simple proposition. He said each country must have the responsibility to protect people within its own country. He said, you as a country have many rights. You have sovereignty. You have control over your territory. But you must have a responsibility to protect. And the point he made is that under that one, how many of you remember Libya? That in Libya, Gaddafi was in power. That United States, France, Britain, many countries went in to topple the regime. At that time, it was said in the United Nations that we are there to protect civilians. But Gaddafi had said, it's moving to Benghazi. And Benghazi, as you know, is on the eastern part of Libya, a big city. And there was rebellion. And Gaddafi said, he is going to go there with his forces. And he said, these are the people that are like rats. We are going to kill them all. And at that time, the United States and the international community intervened under responsibility to protect. But then Russia and China said, you went there to protect people, but in reality you wanted to topple Gaddafi. And so when Syria came, and all these people killed, as our friend has mentioned, responsibility to protect could not work, because they said, this is the old wine in new bottles. It's just like humanitarian intervention. We don't want to accept it. And the point is that long ago, when there was the Palestinian conflict, all kinds of problems, and Security Council was paralyzed, then a resolution was passed, and that was that if the Security Council is paralyzed, let the General Assembly assume the power not to take action. That is only the Security Council. But General Assembly can recommend action. General Assembly is not taking action, but under responsibility to protect. If it doesn't work, Security Council cannot act, then General Assembly might get the power simply to recommend, and then action should be taken. And that's what our friend was mentioning, that can India play an important role in moving toward that General Assembly resolution instead of responsibility to protect and the right to intervene, simply that you have got a responsibility to act cannot work. Therefore, uniting for peace and let the General Assembly do the job. Problem is that there are many, many countries that have their own suspicions about it, and they feel that if the General Assembly cannot act under the UN Charter, then General Assembly cannot, through recommendation, do the same thing that has been not permitted under the Security Council. But recently I did a piece, and I can send it to you, and I have justified uniting for peace and justified it on some grounds. I won't go into technical details, but I think my own feeling is India as a power today, and unfortunately tied up in its own internal issues, but India can, it must play an important role in the future. I hope that India becomes a permanent member of the Security Council, and I hope that India can play an important role in uniting for peace. Yes, sir.
How far US argument is present?
Yeah. I'm very grateful to you for standing all this time. I won't take too long. Dr. Ahuja had said to talk long. I said no, people don't have the patience. And you have shown a great deal of patience. But I know that your patience is not inexhaustible. So I'm going to shut up pretty soon.
Then how far US argument in the present case is consistent with its argument in Nicaragua? How far USA argument in the present case is consistent with its argument in Nicaragua, USA?
So in the Nicaragua case,
He's talking about Nicaragua. He says that the argument of the United States, how far it is consistent with the argument which was taken by US and Nicaragua.
Consistency is hobgoblin. Consistency by states, consistency by governments is not to be accepted. The United States has never been consistent, and the United States will never be consistent. It's probably all the time its own interest, and it can argue in any way because there are various interpretations. When you talk about Nicaragua, and I've written extensively on it, so you and I can talk later, but the point simply is that you're making a very good point, and the United States is not consistent in this. So you're right. I won't go into it, it's too long, but the answer simply is there. I think probably you have reached your limit of patience. I haven't. And so I'll talk for another half an hour. No, I won't. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. This has been not just enlightening, but I think one of the most interactive sessions I've witnessed. So thank you so much. I would now like to invite Dr. Nanda to address to the group.
सुनिए मेरी बात, सुनिए या ना सुनिए, यहाँ एक तो सुन लीजिए बिल्कुल।
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I will not propose the vote of thanks in an official manner because sir belongs to us. He is the eminent professor of Faculty of Law. Sir, Law Center Group faculty and the students, they have great regards for you and they love you. Young police, that shows that how much enthusiastically and patiently they were waiting for you when they came to know that you are visiting India.
I want you to know I'm deeply honored that you are here, and thank you very, very much, my dean.
So we are thankful to Professor V.K. Huja, who has given this opportunity to my students, my teacher, colleagues to listen to you. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I feel that most of the students, they are from first year and they are students of public international law and they are a little bit confused that because we teachers taught them international law is a law but a weak law. But the strength of the international law has been imparted. Now this knowledge is imparted by Professor Nanda today. Thank you so much, sir.
It is indispensable.
So I would like to extend the appreciation to Professor Nanda as far as the legality of the action of the US and Iran is concerned. And he has taught us that what is Article 51 of the UN Charter. Sir, when you are asking them, how many of you know this thing, that thing, the hands which were raised by the student, there were a few. And so I feel the students are motivated that they should learn public international law with interest, not depend upon the rupee. And they must follow whatever is happening in, not only in India, but in the world itself. Few hands were raised and they were followers of whatever is happening in the world. You should go through the details, whenever you listen to the news or you go find it from the Facebook also, that this is happening anywhere else. Thank you so much. Thank you.